My parents were both into acting, theater acting, and then my dad still does short films and produces stuff himself as well in Alberta. So I started acting really young, doing theater like 4 or 5 years old, really young. And I did that all growing up until I was about 18. And then in my later teens, like 15, 16, I started training to be a professional wrestler. So I started traveling with that, which is a performance in itself. I compare it a lot to the circus. So we have crazy costumes and we do all sorts of crazy stuff, and we're in different towns every night performing. So, I learned a lot about performance there. And then the last few years I've really been focusing more on film and television, which is why I'm here in Vancouver. Yeah. Well, I really like to be the center of attention all the time, so that was nice. I played team sports my whole life, but I like to be on my team, and I know that if I mess something up, that this is my fault, and if I do really good, then that was also my doing. So this is certainly a team thing, the Nightwing thing as well, but I think acting is a really individual way to express yourself, and I love that. So I just want to tell stories that pull at people's emotions, so whether that's laughing or crying or whatever, some cool action, I just want to tell those stories through the medium of film. Man, I don't know. I like, for me, I would say probably yeah. I mean, I don't think it matters what emotion it is. I think as long as we're evoking a strong reaction, but that might be different for other actors. I mean, I love to do comedy. I also love to do more dramatic stuff and push myself and test myself in those waters. But yeah, that might be more individual for each person. But for me, it's like, let's get a reaction, whatever that is. Well, I worked on a film called After the Storm, which is a feature film. It has not come out yet, so unfortunately you can't see it yet. But that was a 22-day shoot working on that, and that was amazing. I mean, it was, for me, that was my first time doing something that was, I guess I would call more dramatic of a film. So I'd done lots of comedy. I'd shot a pilot for a romance TV show, but this was something that was more serious, and it really tested me as an actor, and I grew a lot as an actor on that set, and we had a great director and a great team, and so that, I think, that's been my favorite memory working on that film. But obviously this Nightwing thing was amazing for me personally because I grew up with that character. So yeah, too many favorite memories. So the whole thing started with myself, J.D. Buzz, who was the director of the original trailer, who's still involved with the series now. He does visual effects, and he was a co-writer on the show. And then also Pete Powers, who I believe you'll be interviewing for the series as well, who is in the series and was in the trailer as Bane. So the three of us sort of developed it together. Me and Pete kind of came up with the story and what we wanted to do for the trailer. And then JD filmed it and made it a reality and edited it and did the effects for the trailer. So that was where the trailer came from. And then I moved to Vancouver. Pete moved to Vancouver shortly after myself as well. And then I started to develop the series here. So I developed the series, wrote it with JD, who's in Alberta, and then brought Kyle James Patrick on board as director, who's super, super talented and has a real strong vision. I really wanted him as the director of the show. And then he brought on Bruce Borland, who is our director of photography. He's got over 20 years experience shooting some major movies. And then Lindsay McMillan, who was our head of makeup. So she brought the characters to life with the makeup, and even did a lot of the prop designs and stuff too herself. So, those are just some of the key players. I mean, there's lots of other guys. Brian Milne was the costume designer. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to even start naming names because I'm going to miss people and they're going to be offended, but there was just so many great people that worked on the show, and I spearheaded it and organized it, but it wouldn't have been half of what it was without these people that came on board. Well, the Court of Owls, So, as seen in the trailer, Batman is missing. So Dick Grayson returns to Gotham City. So he's been in Bloodhaven fighting crime on his own in Bloodhaven after falling out with Batman. Batman is missing, so he returns to Gotham City to try to figure out why or where Batman is, and starts to uncover the mystery of the Court of Owls. And then the Owls are using some of Gotham's villains as their pawns in this giant chess game with Nightwing and Oracle. And then, yeah, I think the only other thing we sort of talked about was a bit of a love triangle with, Nightwing obviously still working every day with Oracle, who is his ex-girlfriend, and there's still a lot of feelings there, and guilt, and still a lot of love between the two of them as well. But then he begins to date a girl named Teresa Tompkins, who we actually created, myself and Pete created for the series. It's an original character, who is the daughter of Leslie Tompkins, who in the comics was Batman's doctor. So there is a tie-in. So Teresa's an original character, but it is tied to another character from the comics. So she grew up with Dick Grayson. They haven't seen each other in, 10, 15 years, and they reconnect and start to date. So that creates a bit of a little, that's a triangle with them and Oracle. I think that a lot of people, originally coming on, because I've been very secretive about the storyline for the show and not wanting to reveal too much, a lot of people involved with the show didn't even really know the story. And even on the set, a lot of the people hadn't read the full script. They'd only seen what we were shooting that day. So, they were still intrigued by what was even happening. But, yeah, I think sometimes people came on because they were intrigued by the trailer. Some people were intrigued because it was a Batman-related project, and they were like, "Oh my God, I need to work on this." And yeah, some people that I talked to about the story were intrigued by the actual story. But again, there was only a really small group of people. I mean, basically the main actors and the director, and the people that needed to know what was happening in the script were the only people that knew the story. So, and I hope we can keep it under wraps for that whole time. So. Well, I think that some people go a little bit overboard with, they get excited and they reveal too much. And I notice, with a lot of the comic book movies that come out, people are constantly wanting spoilers, and it's like, why? I mean, the fun of the movie or the show is being surprised at what's going to happen. And, I've been pretty open about that we're going to use the Court of Owls, which has never been done in live action before. Even in fan films, never been done, as far as we know. So the Court of Owls, I mean, that story just really blew my mind. Scott Snyder and those guys writing that Court of Owls story, and Nightwing's involvement with that was pretty cool too. I mean, there was some really great stuff with him. So this is not a direct adaptation of any one storyline. It's definitely sort of a mixture of a few and then some original stuff for sure. But it's nice because it jumps right into the story. So it's not a Nightwing origin story. Like, a lot of stuff has already happened. And we reference a lot of past events in the comics that have happened. So if you read Batman comics and you know those stories, you're going to hear a lot of references to that stuff, and that stuff matters and counts, and that's part of the layers too. Like, I mean, stuff has already happened with, Oracle's in the wheelchair, and that's really affecting Dick because he feels guilty for not being there to save her from the Joker and stuff like that. I mean, that stuff's already happened and is talked about. So that's where a lot of the layers come from too. Yeah, and that was a cool thing too. I mean, a lot of people, they said, "Oh, it must be so cool to write a Batman story," and it was. It was really cool to get to play with those characters. But I also felt so much responsibility to make sure that we didn't screw it up. Because comic book fans and Batman fans are just so protective, and myself included. I count myself in that. I wouldn't want to see something that I thought was not respectful to the source material. So we certainly do, take some risks, but it's very respectful to the source material. There was a few things we even talked about in the writing process that I just thought were a little bit too out there that we didn't do, because I just thought that people would be talking about that too much instead of all the great things that we did in the series. So yeah, if you like the comics, I think you'll love the show. I'm Brady Roberts. I play Nightwing. I created the series. I co-wrote the series. And you need to watch it because I really like it, and I put a lot of work into it, and I love Batman, so you should watch it. If you like Batman, you're going to like it too.